Today, I am inspired in my defiance, of course, by the fact that we have cut off all trade negotiations with our neighbor to the north, Canada. Donald Trump, upon watching an ad on TV that directly quoted Ronald Reagan as having some pretty negative things to say about tariffs, decided that he would unilaterally cut off trade negotiations with one of our largest trade partners. President Trump, instead of selling us on the merits of his tariffs policy, is far more interested in retribution for other people telling the truth about his tariffs policy. But it goes a little bit deeper than that, because he is proclaiming that Ronald Reagan never said these words. He is saying that the truth is not what you see and hear, but rather what he says. And that is incredibly dangerous. But this kind of policy, not just the tariff policy, but of pushing back on the truth, means that the world economy, that our economy, is based upon whether or not Trump's ego is bruised. And if he is so thin-skinned that a simple advertisement can set him off, there is no telling what will set him off next. And it is yet another indication that speech is a form of warfare for Donald Trump. When you don't allow the truth to be told, you are a despot. You are a tyrant. And in America, we don't have tyrants. And it further shows just how little of a grip Donald Trump has upon reality. I'm also inspired today by more news coming out about Trump's ballroom. Now, earlier this week, I did talk about taxpayers being on the hook for the demolition of the East Wing. That's not entirely accurate. As more reporting has come out, it shows that many big businesses are actually footing the bill for the destruction and the construction. But I don't think that's better. It is actually worse to think about big business supporting this kind of action. It's actually worse to think that they would be owed favors for destroying part of the White House. And it begs the question to me of what these businesses think they are getting out of donating to this terrible effort. Do they think that they are getting influence, or do they think that they're going to go unregulated in the future because of this donation? Or is it simply shakedown money? Did someone from the Trump administration come to these companies and say, you'd better donate, otherwise you will be unprotected in this economy? Because ultimately, I do think that this is a mafia-style leadership structure, where the boss gets what he wants, and it is always other people's money that makes it all work. And none of this changes the idea that building a 90,000 square foot ballroom has nothing to do with stopping the government shutdown, helping people with health care, making sure that there are SNAP benefits. It is a gross misunderstanding of priorities. It's a bad idea from beginning to end. We should not be building monuments to a man who is a convicted felon. We should not be doing the bidding of someone who is so disconnected from the average American. This is the privatization of a public good, of the people's house, and it cannot be allowed to stand. And lastly today, I'm actually inspired by the fact that there are California leaders who are telling the police that they can arrest federal officers for their immigration raids when they have done things that are illegal. This is just the latest escalation between federal control and statewide control, between federal ICE officers and state or local officers. And while the Attorney General has said that this is a ridiculous idea, that federal ICE officers could possibly be held accountable for their actions, but California is not so sure about that. They believe that anyone who breaks the law should be held accountable, which seems in 2025 to be kind of like a radical idea. It is the responsibility of the states to protect their citizens, just as it is the responsibility of the federal government to protect their citizens, except that group is not actually doing the work of protecting their citizens. Instead, they are going out of their way to arrest and hold U.S. citizens for long periods of time so that they lose out on work, on caring for their kids, on the safety of just being in the US. And I, for one, am glad that California and other states are standing up to this overreach, are standing up for the rule of law, for the idea that no one is above the law. And as we saw a lot of reporting come out this week, these ICE officers, a huge number of them, have failed the open book test about the Fourth Amendment and their responsibilities to care for US citizens. It is my hope that many more states will say no, that they will not allow Gestapo tactics and a lack of due process to prevail. And I just keep coming back to the idea that in trying to project strength, these federal officers are showing weakness. When people are gathering around you and telling you you're wrong, when there are far more citizens around you who are not allowing you to make these illegal arrests, then you know that you have lost. These federal officers and the U.S. attorneys general that are propping them up are the weak ones. The American citizens are the ones who have strength, and we have to always remember that.